Chapter 53. This venerable one's cousin is certainly not very smart. Well, of course they are good nicknames. No one gets a pass. Meng appeared to be in quite a good mood, eager to show Chu Wanning the ropes. You look pretty young. What are you, 5? You must be new to Xisheng Peak then. Haven't gotten a chance to know everyone yet. Once you've settled in, you'll learn that the disciples have nicknames for all 20 elders. Oh? Chu Wanning shot him an indecipherable look. For example? Oh man, where do I even start? But it's getting late now, and I'm kinda hungry. As thanks for all the pointers you gave me today, I'll take you for a late-night snack down the mountain and tell you over food. Chu Wanning thought for a moment, with his head lowered, then smiled and said, okay. Meng put away Long Cheng and took Chu Wanning's hand, the unwitting disciple and the downsized master strolling along the stone steps between the bamboo grove toward the main gate. Xiao Chongdi, what are you called? Meng asked as they walked. My surname is Chia. Chu Wanning answered calmly. Chia what? Chia Sini. Meng completely failed to catch on. That's a nice name, he said cheerfully. Which characters do you write it with? Chu Wanning glanced at him sideways, with the look he reserved for idiots. Si as in disciple Si, Ni as in disciple Ni, Xia Sini. Whoa. Meng, still grinning, continued with the questions. And how old are you? Was it right before, or what? You can't be older than 5. Chu Wanning was silent, his entire face dark. Lucky for Meng, he was looking at the road and not the child's face, or he really would have been in for the scare of his life. No, the young master guessed incorrectly. I'm 6 this year. Then you're amazingly talented, though not quite as much as I was at your age, of course. Anyway, with a bit of guidance, you'll definitely grow up to be outstanding. Say, why don't you quit being Chuanji's disciple? Call me Shige, and I'll go ask my shizun to take you on. How about that? Chu Wanning managed, with effort, not to roll his eyes. What did you say I should call you? Shige. Meng kept grinning as he bent down and flicked Chu Wanning's forehead. This is a rare opportunity, you know. Chu Wanning's expression was complicated. What, speechless from overwhelming joy? Chu Wanning, indeed speechless, if not from overwhelming joy, remained silent. The two laughed and chatted as they walked. At least, Meng thought they were laughing and chatting, when a voice suddenly came from behind them and ended this line of conversation that might have led to Meng's untimely demise. Meng, what are you doing here? Who else on the entirety of Xisheng Peak could have the nerve to call Meng Meng? Meng was cursing before he finished turning his head. Moran, you goddamn mud. Call me that one more time and I rip out your cur tongue. Sure enough, Moran stood behind them under the clear moonlight, clothes fluttering in the breeze and an easy grin on his face. He was about to throw out a retort to further tease Meng when he noticed the dainty kid next to him and came to a screeching halt. Is that? Meng pulled Chu Wanning behind him, glowering at Moran. None of your business. No, don't hide him away. Moran circled around and grabbed Chu Meng's hand, pulling Chu Wanning back out and crouching down to give him a careful once-over. He made a questioning noise as he muttered, This kid looks awfully familiar. Chu Wanning, inwardly alarmed, kept quiet. It feels like I've seen you somewhere before. Chu Wanning didn't like where this was going. If he got busted here, how could he ever face anyone ever again? He took an unconscious step back and turned to run. Hold it. Moran grabbed Chu Wanning with a mischievous grin, then reached out and playfully swiped a finger down the child's nose. Come on, Xiao Jiji, he said in a soft voice. Tell Gugu your name. The swipe gave Chu Wanning goosebumps. Awkward and self-conscious, He kept trying to back away. Moran assumed he was scared, and he laughed. "What are you hiding for? Be good and tell Gugge. Is your name Sure?" Chu Meng blinked, visibly confused. Moran pointed at Chu Meng. "Is he your papa?" he asked, smiling. "Tell the truth, and this Gugge will buy you candy." "What's your problem, Mo you?" Chu Meng exploded, his face bright red and feathers all ruffled. "What the hell are you thinking? You're despicable, filthy, shameless!" For a while, Chu Wanning was also silent, but secretly he was somewhat relieved. "My surname is Cha, the Xuanji elder's disciple, Chia Sini." "Scare you to death?" Moran immediately caught the meaning in the name Chu Wanning offered, and his eyes lit with amusement. "How interesting." Chu Wanning said nothing. "Seriously, what's wrong with you?" Chu Meng said heatedly as he shoved at Moran. "He's my new friend, so go away already. We're going for a late-night snack. Out of the way." "Okay." Moran moved out of the way, but then fell into step next to them, grinning and sauntering. "What do you think you're doing?" Chu Meng snarled at him. "I want a bite to eat too," Moran said innocently. "What, am I not allowed?" Chu Meng couldn't bring himself to reply. Wuchang Town was a small settlement that had once been infested with all manner of ghosts and ghouls. Thanks to the establishment of Xisheng Peak nearby, over the years it had gradually regained its peace. These days it could even be called lively. It was late enough that the night market was open. The group walked past the many stalls lining the road and picked a gudong soup joint, taking their seats at a low wooden table in the outdoor dining area. Gudong soup was made in a pot that was propped over a tabletop stove, and the fire continued to burn while they ate. The broth was generally very spicy, and fresh, raw ingredients were placed on the table to be dipped into the boiling broth so they could be cooked just before eating. It was called gudong soup because of the gudong sound of food being tossed into the broth. This was a famous dish in Sichuan, but Chu Wanning only ate it with clear broth, free of peppers, as anything spicy made him choke. Chu Meng had been born in Sichuan, and Moran had grown up around Jiangtan. In other words, both of them were used to spicy food, and they naturally assumed that Chia Sini could also handle it. When they sat down to order, Chu Meng listed off a bunch of dishes without even looking at the menu and added, "With extra peppers and chili oil in the broth." Chu Wanning suddenly tugged on his sleeve and said quietly, "I want a twin pot." "Huh?" Chu Meng thought he had misheard. Chu Wanning's expression was dark. "Twin pot. Half spicy, half mild." Chu Meng paused for a moment, then said, "You aren't from here?" Chu Meng nodded in understanding, but there was surprise in his eyes as he glanced at Chu Wanning. "To have left your home at such a young age, that's really so… never mind." He sighed and turned to the waiter. "All right, twin pot then." Chu Wanning wasn't sure, but he thought he heard a hint of resistance in Chu Meng's tone. Soon enough, he found that he indeed wasn't imagining things. Chu Meng really was reluctant to just accept this, and he fussed incessantly as they waited for their food. "Shidi, when in Sichuan, do as the Sichuans do. You gotta learn to eat spicy foods. How are you gonna get buddy-buddy with people when you go out if you don't eat spicy food? You don't have to know the local dialect, but spicy food is non-negotiable. Oh yeah, where are you from anyway?" "Lin'an," Chu Wanning replied. "Oh." Chu Meng mulled this over, but he knew less than nothing about the southern region. So, while nibbling on the tips of his chopsticks, he asked, "Do you guys eat rabbit heads over there?" Before Chu Wanning could respond, Moran was already piping up from the side with a smile. "Of course not." Chu Meng shot him a glare, and Chu Wanning also looked over at him. Moran had a foot up on the wooden bench and an arm propped casually on his knee as he skillfully twirled the chopsticks in his hand. He grinned at their reactions and tilted his head. What? Why the look? They really don't eat that kind of thing. Chu Meng turned to Chu Wanning. Is that true? Chu Meng went back to glaring at Moran. How did you know that? You've been there before? Nope. Moran pulled a funny face. But Chiachong and our shizun are from the same place. And don't you realize that shizun would never eat rabbit head? When he picks cold dishes at Meng Hall, it's either tofu with scallions or sweet osmanthus lotus root. Look for yourself next time, if you don't believe me. Chu Wanning listened in silence. I guess I never really paid attention before. I haven't had the guts to look at what's on Shizun's plate ever since that one time I saw his breakfast. Too scary. Chu Meng rubbed his shin and let his distaste show on his face. Shizun's taste is truly beyond words. Did you know? He actually eats savory tofu pudding. Chu Wanning remained silent. As he spoke, Chu Meng turned toward him and said, sincerely and with the utmost importance, Chao Shidi, definitely, absolutely, do not take after the Yuhang elder, or no one will want to eat with you. Remember, rabbit head and spicy foods are both mandatory, and when you have tofu pudding for breakfast, do not eat it with savory sauce. Don't forget about the seaweed and dried shrimp, Moran added. Right, seaweed and dried shrimp too. This was a rare instance of Chu Meng and Moran uniting against a common enemy. Absolutely unacceptable. Chu Wanning stared at this pair of idiots, face devoid of expressions. Their dishes came in short order. Fresh and crispy bamboo shoots, vividly green cabbage, tender tofu, succulent fillets of fish, thinly sliced rolls of lamb, neatly piled on a porcelain plate, meat fried to a crunchy gold and sprinkled with cumin and pepper flakes, and a jar of freshly made soy milk on the side. The little table creaked under the weight. Food brings people together, especially a lively meal like gudong soup. A couple plates of lamb and a few cups of soy milk later, even Chu Meng and Moran's strained relationship became relaxed in the thick steam, at least for the time being. Chu Meng scoured the spicy broth with his chopsticks. Oi oi, where's the brain I put in here? Isn't it attached to your neck? Moran laughed. I meant the pig brain. Moran bit his chopstick with an impish grin. That's the one. You goddamn mud, you dare insult me? Oh, hey, your brain floated up. Time to eat. In a moment of excitement, Chu Meng had walked right into Moran's trap. Put the dog paw away, he yelled. Don't even think about stealing it. That's my brain. Chu Wanning sat on his little stool, leisurely drinking his jar of sweet soy milk while watching the brats bicker. He was in no hurry. The entire mild side of the pot was all his. When he finished the soy milk, he licked his lips as if he wanted more. Moran noticed and asked with a smile, Does Chao Shidi like it? Chu Wanning took a moment to digest the fact that he had just been called Chao Shidi, and internally calculated the possibility of making Moran not do that again, only to arrive at the conclusion that his odds were practically zero. So he could only dryly reply, It's not bad. Thus, Moran turned toward the waiter. Excuse me, another jar of soy milk for my Shidi here. And so, Chu Wanning contentedly began drinking a second jar. He had always loved sweets, but he'd once acquired a cavity from eating too many pastries, and the Chanlang elder had been forced to go to quite some trouble to restore it for him. Since then, Chu Wanning had refrained from overindulging for the sake of his thin face. Being temporarily stuck as a kid had the unexpected benefit of letting him eat all the sweets he wanted. Moran watched him eat with his cheek in his hand. Your tastes are just like Shizun's. Chu Wanning choked a little, but managed to maintain his placid expression. After a moment, he said, "Is Shizun talking about the Yuheng elder?" "Yep." Moran nodded with a smile as he pushed the steamer basket toward Chu Wanning. "Try this. I think you'll like it too." Chu Wanning picked a leaf-wrapped bun from the bamboo steamer and took a small bite. Warm steam gushed from the bun, and inside the soft, glutinous wrapper was a sweet bean paste filling. "Do you like it?" Chu Wanning took another bite before nodding. "Mm-hmm." Moran smiled. "Then have some more." As the three of them chatted while eating, Chu Wanning suddenly remembered an earlier subject. After finishing his fourth bun, he asked Chu Meng with faint nonchalance, "By the way, young master, you mentioned earlier that every elder has a nickname. If my shizun, the Xuanji elder, is called the Rubbish King, then what's the Yuheng elder's nickname?"